evening, everybody. Welcome to Focus on Winchester for February 1990. I'm Alan Iden. Tonight on Focus, we're going to take a look at the controversial 2.5 override question with Selectman Robert Deering. And we're also going to look at the Winton Club show, Galaxy, from two very different points of view. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We're a part of your town, a picture of the things you do, working 24 hours every day to keep the signal coming through. We're Continental. We put everything on the line for you.
Whether you're raking it in or just trying to make it grow, watch CNN's Moneyline.
Crazy up and down market.
Dan Dorfman, the insider, first with the big stories from Wall Street.
Individual investors have been
Myron Kandel, the expert analyst on economic ups and downs.
The market opened slightly higher.
And Lou Dobbs, managing the nation's premier business news team. Moneyline, a safe bet when you're serious about your money. Weeknights at 7 and 11 Eastern on CNN.
So you're a senior this year, getting ready for college.
Uh-huh.
Sports, too.
Uh-huh.
Studies, sports, and a job.
Uh-huh.
I guess you have to pay for your car.
I can handle it.
Uh-huh. A student's most important job is getting a good education.
Welcome back. We're here with Selectman Robert Deering tonight. Bob, welcome to Focus.
Good evening, Alan.
We're going to start off by taking a look at a tape of the Selectmen's meeting that took place on January 29th. You want to give us a little bit of a preview of what we're about to see?
Well, as you know, Alan, we started looking at the budget back in September, and we all had our different opinions, and finally on January 29th, that was the curtain call, and that night we made a final vote, and prior to the vote, each one of us sort of gave our opinions on what we thought the override question should be and how we should be addressing it. So it was everybody had a shot at it that night.
I think as we join this tape, that Chairman Tom Schmidt has just called for a motion.
Yes.
And we're going to see some of the
comments. And we had finished up our discussions, and he asked for a motion.
Right. Okay. Let's go to that tape now.
And I will accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the board vote to put a $1.39 million debt exclusion question on the ballot to include that debt which is legally allowed under the Proposition 2.5 laws.
Second. Second.
Any further?
Mrs. Motion.
If there's no discussion on that motion, Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend by substitution and ask the town to ask the board to put a general override question on the ballot, but for the amount of $1.35 million, which is the total of the state aid we are losing, and that's the question I would like to see us put on the ballot, and I'd like to address it.
I'll second that motion. Any further? Have a vote on the motion to amend. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No. Motion fails. Vote on the main motion, which is a $1.391 million debt exclusion for all those items that are permissible under Proposition 2.5 guidelines. Discussion. Mrs. Motion.
This isn't a discussion, it's a comment. You know from what I said that I wanted to see a general override question. I think we need to take control. I think in the next couple of years, I have no argument with the numbers. I really don't. Between 1.3 and 1.39. I don't have a lot to say. I agree with Tom that 2.2 is desirable, and I think it's a very difficult sell. I think we've waited too long to put any kind of question on and pass it. So in that sensitivity, I agree with Tom. We've got to keep the number reasonable. I see, however, as the debt exclusion amount that we pay drops, inflation is increasing and our costs continue to gallop. So I don't, and given the state situation and the local aid situation, I worry very, very much about our being able to do long-range fiscal planning rather than short-term scrambling with this kind of question. I would not vote to certify free cash because that is our rollover money that we need to depend on in the next fiscal year. So I can't go along with that. The other thing that bothers me is as the crunch comes on a decreasing amount of income, we tend to take it out, no matter how reasonable the arguments are, and I've gone along with some of them, in fees. And if they're in schools and on the municipal side, these are targeted fees that hit people individually, and we lose the cooperative support of services and programs we need. On the other hand, as Tom said, I feel like Fiddler on the Roof. On the other hand, I don't think it's either reasonable or appropriate or sensible for me, and I hope for Tom, but he'll speak for himself, to pick up my marbles and go home because I didn't get a general override. I think the opinion is clear on the board that this majority of the members want to go with a debt exclusion. And I know it's going to come out and people are going to discuss it and say, I don't know if I can say it on blank, it's that town hall. Didn't like it, didn't like the way it was done. It's a lot of money, and I don't think I can support that. Well, have any of you ever done a home improvement that didn't work out very well and tell the bank you weren't going to pay it off? Or welched on your mortgage? I mean, responsible people don't do that. We're sitting in the town hall, it's done, and it's money we're going to pay, you know, whether it goes along the way it is inside the current tax structure or if we exclude it. And at least the 5 of us and a heck of a lot more boards and committees, and now it becomes an education problem, know that there's a revenue gap. And there are those that feel we've got to do a heck of a lot more with revenue, and they're right, but we're not going to get it all done before July 1st. And the bottom line is we've got to create a fiscal situation that can work for the schools, that can work for the municipal side on services. And on that basis, I'm just going to let you know when the vote comes, I will support this vote because I can't look Peter Van Aken in the face or his group and tell him to send what's left of capital planning to the churches to pray. And I can't look school parents in the eye and tell me, I'm sorry, we've got to ship your kids all over the place and we're closing a school and you may lose programs. That's simply not a responsible thing to do. So I respect the opinion of the majority members of the board. I'd like it to be different, but it isn't. But I'm going to support them, and not having to go to Boston or anywhere else all day, every day, I'm going to work my patootie off to see that this happens. So that's where I'm coming. Thank you.
All those in favor of the main motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to make a couple observations in closing. I don't think there's anyone in the audience who, since you're all interested and you pay attention to what's going on here, isn't aware of the diversity and difference of opinions, different backgrounds, different points of view of this board. Yet this board sat here and took a 5-0 vote tonight on what it thinks is the best thing for the future of the town. Now, a week ago, somebody from the audience said, take a leap of faith. We just did. It's a 5-0 leap of faith. I will continue to work for it. I'll work for it very hard, but it is up to the folks in the audience. There is, I noticed in a quotation in the paper yesterday, there's an article about Charlie Flaherty, and there was a quotation in there, I think it was attributable to Ed Powers, who was President Kennedy's aide, who quoted the president and saying that there are really 3 important things, or 3 real things in life: God, human frailty, and a sense of humor. And there isn't much we can do with the first 2, so we better make do with how as best we can with the third. And the last thing I'd like to say is, please support the override. I think it is very important and critical for the future of this town. Thank you very much.
Once again, that was an excerpt taken from the January 29th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Bob, why don't we backtrack a little bit here and, maybe for some of the people that are unfamiliar with it, why do we need an override?
Yes, Al, the budget for the FY91 is proposed to be $33,008,900, but the projected revenues for the FY91 budget is $30,954,000, which is approximately a little over $2 million shortfall in revenue. So there is basically two options. One is that you only spend what you have, or you generate additional revenue. The override is one method of generating additional revenue to meet the proposed expenditures for FY91.
Once again, override, maybe even backtracking a little further, what are we overriding?
Well, under Proposition 2.5, each community is allowed to increase their tax levy 2.5% from the previous year. There is a ceiling which they can go to, which is the difference between what your tax levy is and the ceiling. If a town deems that they would like to raise more revenue in a particular year in excess of the 2.5%, they have the mechanism to do that by what they call an override, where it is the voters of the town decide that whether it be 5%, 8%, 15% increase in their tax levy in a particular year.
We've heard talk about two different types of overrides, debt exclusion override, and as Selectman Mugent was talking about, a general override, which I believe she was in favor of initially. Maybe you could explain the difference between the two types.
Yes, Alan, really there's three types of overrides. There are a general override, a debt exclusion, and a capital override. The general override is an override where the amount that is overridden becomes a permanent base in the tax levy, and it's there forever. And each year 2.5% is added to that as well. Debt exclusion, the override is for a certain amount of debt, and that money goes down each succeeding year until the debt is paid off. So if it was a 10-year debt, the amount of the override would last at 10 years, and at the end of 10 years, your tax levy would drop back to where it was. Capital is similar to debt in that it's an override for a particular capital expense, say a new fire engine or a new school building, anything that's a capital expense.
Again, now that would be a one-shot
And that
deal.
would be what capital is for the year that it's spent. Say in this year that maybe you wanted to spend $500,000 for a new fire engine. We would have a debt or a capital override for this particular year, and next year you would go back to square zero. It only lasts for 1 year. So in summary, a general is basically forever. A debt is for the life of the debt, and a capital is in that one particular year.
Now, it's interesting that you said that a general override establishes a new base for the future
Yes.
2.5 increases. So that is, as opposed to these other ones that kind of fade out or are 1 year only.
That's right.
A general override establishes a whole new
That's
pattern
right.
for the town. And again, clarifying the debt override, you have a certain amount of debt. You can add to that debt, but that wouldn't be subject to the override in future years?
No, you could put that into an override, but it would have to be a separate vote. When
Every
you vote
year.
on it, it is spelled out what debt you're actually overriding. So if, say, 2 years from now, we, for some reason, decided to build another building in town, and we incurred a debt, and at some particular time in the future, you could override that, but it would have to be a separate question.
Separate vote in a separate year. You and the rest of the board unanimously supported the debt exclusion. Can you explain to us what this will help to do with the anticipated, you said about a $2 million shortfall?
Yes. Well, hopefully by at least it being a 5-0 vote, that it appeared to be some consensus that at least there was a need for additional revenue in the town. I guess maybe we can debate how much additional revenue. I think we all probably have our opinion on that. But I think the bottom line is that at least the five of us recognize that there is some need for additional revenue over and above what we can raise under the current 2.5. There still will have to be some cuts made even if the override does pass, and I think some of us on the board also recognize that as well.
You said the shortfall is going to be about $2 million. How much of that will this debt exclusion override address?
Well, the debt exclusion override is for $1,391,000, which is the total amount of debt that the town now has. there is $690,000 in cuts, $400,000 for the education budget, $290,000 for the municipal budget, and we're using roughly $130,000 out of the sale of land account. There will be no free cash used because we don't have any free cash to use. We will not use stabilization because there's no money in the stabilization. We used that last year. We are not proposing right now to increase any fees at the transfer station. The proposal is to do that on July 1 of 1991, which is really the FY92 budget. If you add all those up, that comes to a little over $2 million.
Okay, now this debt exclusion override, you referred to the fact that it lasts a certain number of years and then it kind of tapers down. How many years in this particular case?
I think the last payment for the debt that would be included in this question is about 10 years. When all the debt that exists would be paid off. It would
fade away. Now the financial impact is less each year, each succeeding year. Do you have some kind of chart on what it would be for the
It's funny you should ask, Alan.
And does this cover any future shortfalls?
I have it for 3 years. We've worked the numbers out for 3 years, and I think anybody that's dealt with these budgets and is looking at what's happening at the state, I don't think it's probably even a little risky projecting it out 3 years. But if the debt override question was to pass, in the first year, going back to our proverbial $300,000 house in Winchester, that taxpayer would pay roughly 8.4% more in taxes in FY91 than he did in FY90. And that translates into $266, which is the amount because of the override question plus the normal amount for new growth. Each year you're allowed to add onto your tax levy for new growth. In the second year, household taxes would go up 2.1%, and then translate into a dollar amount, that's $257. And in the third year, the taxes would go up 2%, and that translates into $244. And as you go on, the percentage keeps getting smaller and smaller, and the dollar amount keeps getting smaller and smaller. As far as how it translates into addressing any shortfalls in the coming year, in the first year, in the FY91 budget, there is no difference at all between the debt override and the general override because it would generate the same amount of money. It's when you get to the second year, there's approximately $50,000 difference. We would have $50,000 less with a debt than we would with a general, and in the third year, it's almost $200,000 in difference. So, because you're adding 2.5% each year with a general, and your debt is being retired as you go, it keeps getting bigger. So, forecasted out 10 years, the number would be a much bigger number. Under the debt override question, at least for the next 2 years, there would be no cuts in both the municipal and the educational budget with the debt override. We would be using free cash and some sale of land accounts in those years. So it's anticipated that there would be no further cuts in the level of service in the next 2 years with the debt override question.
Okay, how about capital expense budget, though?
Naturally, Mr. Van Aken feels that it's not enough, and I disagree. I think I agree with him. But this year, if we did not propose a question of any kind, whether it be general debt or capital, basically there would be no capital budget this year. We would be funding with $85,000, which Mr. Van Aken felt that it would be better used someplace else and donated to some church to say a few prayers for us. With the override question, the capital budget would be funded at $860,000, which is a considerable amount less than probably what is needed. But as usual, the Capital Planning Committee has done an excellent job in prioritizing, and they've addressed those which need immediate attention and which could cost us more money in the long run if they're not addressed. So that is a high priority list, that $860,000.
Give us an example of some of the things that fall within that capital planning budget.
Yeah, I think I could.
Awful lot of figures there.
Off paper, but I will find it. Here we go. These are in order that the way Capital Planning Committee has prioritized them. It would be the asbestos removal in the library, the asbestos removal in schools, a police cruiser, the transfer station conveyor belt, which some of you may know is in disrepair, some structural changes to our schools, some radio communications for the fire department, resurfacing of our streets, the chimney at the Lynch School needs repairing, school computers, a dump truck for the DPW, the McCall School boiler replacement, a microfilm reader printer for the library, some carpet replacement for the schools, a tractor for the DPW, and repaving of the McCall School parking lot. Those are the top priorities of the Capital Planning Committee, which totals $860,000. There is also $18,000 for a new truck in the water department, but that comes out of the water and sewer rates. Which I may mention that these budget figures that we're talking about tonight do not include any water and sewer money because we are on an enterprise accounting. And I would also like to mention that we do not forecast any increase in the water rates this July 1st. Is a little bit of good news.
Is that official?
It's as official as can be official.
That's right. That, looking at that list of fairly essential projects brings up the next question. Now, if the override should fail, what do we do then?
Well, both the municipal and the educational have put together a contingency plan of what would happen if an override was to fail. Basically, there would be 13 employees on the municipal side that would no longer be employee of the town, approximately 20 full-time equivalent teachers in the school system, would possibly be a closing of the school. There'd be other areas that don't affect personnel, but in material supplies, some overtime that would also have to be reduced if the override was not to pass.
Now, in addition, those capital items would all be out?
The capital budget would disappear if there was no override.
So none of those things that you just read off would get done?
None of those would happen at all.
If the override does pass, are there still cuts that are going to have to be made?
Yes, there would be $290,000 in cuts if the override was to pass on the municipal side, and $400,000 in cuts on the educational side if the override was to pass, and that roughly the $290,000 in the municipal side is equivalent of about 7 positions. We would reduce the town council budget. Fortunately, our street lighting bill has come in a little lighter. Reduction in the council on aging rent. Planning board studies have been reduced, and was also reduced the health department budget by $10,000. That totals $290,000. School department, I believe it's about nine teachers that would still
It will be cut?
They'll be cut even if the override passes. Based on their figures here. I think it's 8.9.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys, and girls, you people have been grappling with this problem now for quite some time. The item is now on the budget, on the ballot, going to be on the ballot for the town elections for the voters to decide.
Yes, that'll be on March 27th, the annual town elections. That question will be there. I would hope, and I would like to take this opportunity to urge everybody that there is a multitude of paper, there is in-depth analysis of all the budget figures, and that no matter which side of the question anyone may be on, that I would hope that they would look at these numbers, and when they do go to the polls, that they have an understanding of these numbers, and when they vote, they fully understand the ramifications of their vote, whether they voted up or they voted down. I think there's been a lot of work put in both by the Board of Selectmen, the Town Manager's Office, and the School Department to have this information available for the public to look at and determine whether they agree with it or disagree with it.
What do you think is the easiest way for the average resident to become better informed about the different items on the budget and the pros and cons of the question?
Well, the budget, which was presented to the Finance Committee last Thursday night, I believe either the end of this week or the beginning of next week, will be sent out to all town meeting members. All the selectmen have a copy, all the Finance Committee members have a copy, and I believe all the members of the school committee have a copy. There is a copy available in the town manager's office, and I would assume there'd be a copy available in the library. So I think there is plenty of avenues to get a copy of it. I know the selectmen are always willing to field questions and phone calls if anybody does have a question. Some of the selectmen will be going around to various coffees to basically present what I've presented here tonight, so that I think there's the avenues are there. I just hope that the will is there for the people to seek out that information.
Right, and should also add, we hope that the whole question doesn't become a personal issue, as it seems to have become in some cases, that everybody who is considering the issue will consider it on its merits and not bring any kind of personalities.
Yes, as I've said in all my discussions concerning this budget, is that no matter what your opinion, whether you think the question should go up or it should go down, base your decision on the facts that are presented. These numbers here are not a subjective number; they're very objective. They're based on a budget. You can add and subtract, and you can agree and disagree with them. But if you're going to make a decision, base it on the budget as presented. You may not agree with the budget, and if you don't, I hope you challenge it, because that's what the democracy is all about. But I would hope that everybody would stick to the piece of paper with the numbers, and after the discussion, you can walk away and agree to disagree. But we can walk away smiling at each other.
Right, and of course, everybody will have their chance to put their input in at town meeting through their town meeting members, if they're not already a town meeting member, and by, like you say, getting in touch with the selectmen and. Just point out that in the process of trying to educate people that the selectmen did vote to put this on the ballot. Our vote really was just to give the people of the town the right to vote. We didn't vote anybody's taxes up. We just voted to give that chance. The voters will also vote this, and depending upon how they vote, it's really town meeting this April that will really decide if the money is available, how it will be spent. If the money is not available, we'll determine which cuts will be made. These are proposals by both the selectmen and the school committee of where the cuts will be made, but it's really the town meeting is the legislative body of the town, and they'll have the final decision where those cuts were made. So anybody is welcome to come to town meeting. Only town meeting members can vote, but any member of the town can speak at town meeting, and if somebody feels that they would like to rise and speak to the budget, they're more than free to do so. But it ultimately is the town meeting decision, and those are the people that you elect as town meeting members. There's 192 of us, and those are really the people that you ought to be contacting to express your views, basically once the question is voted on, because that's when town meeting will come. But it's type of really a three-step process. The selectmen vote to put it on, the voters voted either up or down, and then the town meeting has to deal with what's left. Right, and of course, we remind you also that you can watch town meeting on Channel 19, although if you want to make your input felt, you have to be actually down there at the high school. Will there be any kind of public hearings or anything on this subject?
The selectmen traditionally have held a public hearing. We have already had a public hearing prior to our vote. I believe the League of Women Voters received a notice today of having some sort of forum on the impact on the education budget. The League of Women Voters usually have a candidate this afternoon. I know there are some coffees scheduled around town just on the 2.5 question. Naturally, the Board of Selectmen every Monday night has matters from the audience, and if anybody wishes to come down and seek out further information or clarification, they're welcome to come to that. I believe that possibly that the Board of Selectmen would probably, I'd have to speak to the chairman, but would probably have at least scheduled one more public hearing prior to the vote on March 27th to answer maybe any questions that are still lingering out there.
Right, like you said though, and there's an additional factor that there are some strong positions expressed by some of the candidates from some of the public offices, and that'll be in coffees, that'll be on the League of Women Voters Candidates Night. We will be interviewing the candidates here on Focus next month on the 21st, the same day. So it does seem like there's ample opportunity for everybody to become well informed, both pro and con on the subject. Bob, we thank you for coming here tonight.
Thank you, Alan.
And good luck over the next few weeks in fielding these questions. And we'll be right back with another look, two different looks at the Winton Club show for this January. And stay tuned.
like the great outdoors.
It's a corner of America, a picture from our past. It's quiet towns and rolling hills where time slows down at last.
The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America. The spirit of the red, white, and blue. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America. The spirit that we want to share with you.
For your free Massachusetts vacation kit, call 1-800-624-MASS.
Getting into drugs and being high is a stupid thing to do. Or being in control and saying no, it's not the easiest thing to do. Being original and take a stand, you are free to say no. Don't let a friend push you into taking drugs. You got a right to say no. Being original and take a stand, you are free to say no. Don't let a friend push you into taking drugs.
You know, getting into drugs and being high is a real stupid thing to do. Being original and saying no to peer pressure. Saying no may be the smartest thing you ever do.
You got a right to say no. You got a right to say no. No, right to say no.
Hi, Kate says it's time, so we're off to the hospital. Leave us a message and we'll get back to you with his name.
Or her name. I just heard, and I mean, if there's anything we can do, just call, okay?
Children with birth defects and their families need our help to lead happier, healthier lives. We need yours.
Well, if you're a faithful Channel 19 viewer, you know that one of the big events every year is Channel 19's telecast of the Winton Club show that's put on at the Town Hall as a benefit for the Winchester Hospital. It's always a big production. It's always a lot of work here. But we thought we'd give you a little bit different perspective on the Winton Club this year. Focus on Winchester's reporter Peter Morton went behind the scenes to show you what's going on in the creation of this Winton Club spectacular.
Good evening. It's Tuesday night, January the 30th, and tonight marks the opening of the 69th annual Winton Club Cabaret Celebration. This year's edition is entitled Galaxy, and if you were fortunate enough to take in one of the performances, you must have asked yourself, what goes on in such a production? Well, tonight, Focus will answer that question. We ask you to come along with us as we take a ride through the solar system and explore behind the scenes in the production of Galaxy. Each year, a Winton Club member is selected to create the show. In the case of Galaxy, this job was placed in the combined capable hands of Peggy Otis and Mary Gillespie. The co-chairwomen's task began immediately following last year's performance.
Our responsibilities began last January when we called our friends and asked them to be our committee members, and they were each assigned a job. And since that time, we have depended on them to do their job, and we, in the meantime, we worked to find a director, hire a musical director, and develop a show.
The development of the show occupied a lot of their time. However, they are used to spending time together. They have been a visible duo in the Winton Club for several years.
We started out, 4 years ago, 5 years ago together. We started out working floor 2 years together. We did the program together, which was putting the whole book together. Last year we did tickets together.
The two met often early last year, and after narrowing their choices, finally selected the 69th annual cabaret show.
Summer, we had probably 7 different plans, and once we all agreed upon one, we stuck with it, which is Galaxy. I think our main idea was always to maybe do something with the stars, the sky, and which is why we stuck with Galaxy. And when we talked about going with the authors representing our show, we looked up the word galaxy, and it means an assemblage of famous people or things coming together. So it worked quite nicely.
Galaxy. The selection was made, an assemblage of famous people and things coming together. But these famous people and things needed direction. That was Peggy and Mary's next job.
The minute he walked in and walked out, we liked him.
We liked a lot of people we saw, but we both said, this is it. He's all right.
The he that they refer to is Neil Shapiro. Neil came complete with a theater degree from Emerson College. He's the Winthrop High School drama instructor with an impressive resume, including the direction of over 50 productions at the high school and community levels.
We interviewed him for an hour and a half or so, and we communicated so well. He knew what we wanted, we knew what we wanted from him, and it was just, we knew we were going to work well.
And work well together they did. With Neil at the helm, the show began to take shape.
Names of this kind, I can give you a quarter, such as Mancusa, Guaso, or Coricopa, such as Bambalarina or Elsia Laura. Names that never belong to more than one cast, but above and beyond, there's still one name left over, and that is the name you never will guess. It's a name that no human research can discover, but the cat himself knows and will never confess. When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason I tell you is always the same. His mind is engaged in that contemplation of the thought.
As good directors do, Neil exudes excitement. He thrives on interaction with his cast.
You don't need to know how many counts to do. All you need to know is when to get out there and when to leave. What you do in the middle, you just have a ball out there.
And have a ball they did. Neil's uncanny ability to bring out the best in his people resulted in the discovery of a cast laden with talent.
I think that you'll be really surprised by the kind of talent that we have here this year, vocally and dance-wise also. Our choreographer is marvelous, and you're going to see some outstanding dancing.
The cast is large, over 110 in total. They rehearse every weeknight prior to the actual performance. Credit must be given to all involved, for they have only 3 weeks to be ready for opening night.
Talent actually wasn't picked until the Wednesday after New Year's. We have audition night. We cast everybody. People come in and we just place them in the different parts that we have available.
With the parts in place, it is now time to create the set. Winton Club members are responsible for its design, while the club's husbands and friends are in charge of the actual construction. The crew usually works on several weekends prior to the show to complete the set on time. Bob Johnson is the co-chairman of the stage crew. It is his job to transform the Winton Club's thoughts into a finished product, or more simply,
all we do is what we're told.
What he's told is the result of many informal meetings between Neil, the director, and Ann McGovern, the set designer. These two have a very practical working relationship.
We usually start with a write-up of the show, very loose, and then the director, of course, tells us what he has in mind for scenery, and then if it's a new director, as Neil is, he, I don't think, has seen us work with cardboard the way he does. He's more used to a more formal stretching of the fabric. So we go ahead with sketches and photographs and that sort of thing. And sometimes it's what he wants, and sometimes it isn't. And if it isn't, then we just do it over again.
And again, or at least as long as the 3 weeks will allow. The stage crew and the Winton Club forge ahead with the January 28th deadline just around the corner. Opening night has finally arrived and everything is in order. The collaboration of many has resulted in a production appreciated by all. The show is a tremendous success. But what about Peggy and Mary, the Winton Club's dynamic duo? What are their plans for the new year now that their latest venture is complete?
Next year we're resting together.
Next year we're going to travel together.
This is Peter Morton reporting for Focus on Winchester.
Thank you, Peter. What a great report. It's very often hard for the people who get to sit in the audience and enjoy these shows to appreciate the months and months of hard work and the many evenings and weekends that are devoted to putting together a big production like this. You all can also see local productions with the Winchester Players, and much of the same type of effort goes into those productions too. We're going to take a look now at the end result of all that hard work with a sneak preview here of Galaxy.
Yeah, I want to get washed up. No, let it be for the present. We would do well now to control with all that God requires. When wilt thou save the people, O God of mercy, bless the people, Lord, the people, not frozen ground, but man. kingdom of heaven is theirs.
Blessed are they that mourn,
For they shall be comforted.
blessed are they.
For they shall inherit the earth.
Blessed are they that hunger and thirst for justice.
For they shall be filled.
Blessed are the merciful.
For they shall have mercy.
Blessed are the poor in heart.
For they shall see God.
Blessed are peacemakers.
For they shall be the children of God.
Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake.
The reign of heaven is theirs.
Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you and speak all manner of evil against you falsely.
Did I ever tell you I used to read these? No, really. Some people read tea leaves, others pounds. Look. It says rejoice.
It says rebar.
Yes, rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. When you feel sad or under a curse, your life is bad, your prospects are worse, your wife
Hope you can appreciate the tremendous amount of work that must have gone into producing Galaxy for the Winton Club. We have one small correction to our earlier piece on the behind-the-scenes effort at producing that show, Galaxy. Credit was given to Ann McGovern, who called us and corrected our proper credit for set design should go to Ann Bannister, and we have to make sure credit goes where credit's due. Next month, March, Focus, we'll be meeting the candidates for office. We'll be just about a week before the elections. We'll be meeting the candidates for the contested offices of Selectman, School Committee, and Planning Board. So join us and keep watching Channel 19 for other programs on the election and for our election night coverage, which is always spectacular and a lot of hard work for us here. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. If you are watching us live on the 21st of February, this program will be immediately followed by the whole production of Galaxy, so stay tuned for that. If you are watching a tape version of this show, check the program schedule because the whole production will be cablecast several times over the next few weeks. Well, for all of us here at Focus, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night. I'm Alan Iden.